and just her completely bat crazy take on that thing was something that I did not expect and really made me laugh.
Easily one of my most favorite crime movies of all time. Fantastic movie. And back in the Boston area for Confess Fletch.
Yeah.
So
yes, indeed.
My
yeah, it's my third movie in Boston, and Greg and I's second movie in Boston. We made clear history there as well.
That's awesome. Greg, I wanted to ask, Confess Fletch, obviously based on the sequel to the original Fletch book, but not necessarily a sequel to the original film, or was that kind of your idea?
I think it wasn't. I think in my mind, the events of the original film happened to this Fletch in their own way. The time period is different and everything, but interestingly, in the second book, Gregory McDonald made Fletch already having retired from investigative reporting, which worked for our purposes. That he's out of it and he kind of gets pulled back into it, or form of it. So yes, I think all those events took place. We did have an Alan Stanwyck reference that we ended up not using.
Yes.
But someday he'll show up, karaoke Fletch. Or he won't show up, he's dead. But maybe his wife will.
John, I wanted to, maybe this isn't so much a question, more as an observation I'd love to get your opinion on. Watching your performance as Fletch felt a little less like kind of the way that Chevy played him, and it almost came across very Columbo-like to me. That sort of investigative, sort of like, leaning, yeah. I was just curious if that was a thought in your head of kind of moving a little further away from sort of the sarcasm and more into the...
Well, what we knew going in was that Chevy's iteration of this was a very specific version of it that also kind of was so redolent of the 80s that it's kind of hard to update that, or at least it's hard to bring that into the 2020s. And you mentioned, is this a sequel? They made a sequel to the original one in the later 80s, and it's its own thing. And then that kind of proves how hard it is to kind of capture that original lightning, even if you talk about Chevy reprising his own character. So we knew that we had to kind of come up with some new jazz, as it were. And you're right. Columbo's a very good kind of sort of template to look at. He is a little bit of a shaggy dog, and he's kind of thinking obliquely about things, and one more thing, and there's always something else going on in his head. And Peter Falk's sneaky funny and a really good actor as well. So I think that there's a lot of exciting ground to kind of till that we really leaned into the creative aspect of, okay, well let's recreate this from the ground up. And where do we start? Well, we start at the novel. Let's look at the novel and see how Gregory McDonald envisioned this guy and go from there.
That's awesome. One thing I'm curious is, I'd love to know who you had the hardest time keeping a straight face working opposite. And is there a chance it was Lucy Punch? Because that scene with the two of you, the whole bespoke, I have not laughed so hard in so long. That back and forth is brilliant.
Well, thanks to this guy who wrote it. There was a lot of fun. For me, the chaos of the scene in the kitchen with Annie Mumolo, who I had worked with not on screen but off screen on Bridesmaids with, so I had known her and I know how funny she is, and just her completely crazy take on that thing was something that I did not expect and really made me laugh.
Yeah, Annie came as that character, and it was we had to have a fire marshal there, and I'm glad. She might have burned down that set.
Well, I'm glad it didn't happen. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time to chat today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
man. Thanks.
Very excited to be chatting about Confess Fletch. What a great movie. There is undeniably this, Roger Don chemistry that you see between Frank and Fletch. And I'm curious if that's something that you guys kind of like knew going into the movie, like this is just going to be what people perceive it as, so we're going to lean into it, or is that just kind of you and Jon's natural chemistry together?
We do have a good rapport. We get along well as, you know, friends and as colleagues and stuff. But it was in the script. I mean, this kind of antagonistic relationship. But Fletch kind of does that to everybody. He kind of comes into people's lives and turns them upside down, and then kind of, you know, makes a quick exit. So I think he leaves a trail of people going, what the hell was that? Including Frank. And I think he gets a charge out of messing with Frank. And, but yeah, that's, I think, one of the reasons I was asked to do it was a kind of a Roger Don revisit, vibe-wise. And it was, you know, and there's no point in trying to deny that or create some other vibe. I mean, I think that's what was there in the original story, the Fletch story, and it just kind of fits.
One thing I think is interesting is, you know, as far as film wise, you know, not speaking about the books, but necessarily film wise, Richard Libertini, who played Frank in the original film,
the great Richard.
Right? I mean, just phenomenal actor. And what's great is your version of Frank is almost the entire opposite. Whereas he was kind of a punching bag for Fletch, you're more like you're dishing it right back out to him, and I really like that dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, I just love Richard Libertini and everything. So yeah, but you know, there's no point in trying to recreate anything any of those guys did, because they were iconic, and that would just be a fool's errand. And this was so specifically written, and Greg is his own man and is super talented and smart and funny and confident in what works, as is Hamm. Yeah. And so, you know, it was my day one was I only had a couple scenes, so it was a good set to walk onto because those guys knew what they wanted, and we just kind of messed around a little bit with it until they were happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess maybe the most pressing question I have is, why does everybody hate Pete so much?
Pete Campbell?
What did Pete do? No, I mean in the movie when you're like, I hate that guy. He's like, hey, Pete.
Oh, Pete.
Pete from the bullpen. What did Pete do?
Because he's so morose.
That's what it is.
Hey, Pete. Hey, Fletch. I think Frank hates his life at this point, his work life anyway. You know, it's just he complains about everything and everybody, and I think he feels like it's less and less his world every day.
Yep.
And Pete is just maybe a reminder of all that.
That sounds about right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time to speak today, Jon. It's
Absolutely.
a great flick. I'm excited for more people to see it. Confess, Fletch. That is a brand new movie that you're both in.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. Such a funny movie. Lorenzo, I wanted to ask you about working opposite Marcia Gay Harden in this, because when she came in, I was not expecting that performance, and I was on the floor. She is so funny in this movie. And I was curious about your experience working opposite her on that.
I'm in love with her. We have a complete love affair. I'm so happy you felt that way, because I did too. And you know, in this film, it's interesting because all of us are like playing opposite Jon, right? We're all coming in and doing this dancey-do. I don't know that word in English, but you know, we're doing this dance with him and his very dry, natural humor. So when Marcia came in and we did the first scene together, I mean, her accent, her posture, how she was this very vague. You didn't know where she came from. Her accent was on purpose all over the place because you couldn't pinpoint her. I was on the floor laughing. Like the second the word Fletch came out, I was like, I'm dead. I'm also a huge fan of her. So I was so excited to get to play with her, because that's literally what we did. All of our Italian scenes, any moments we had together, we would find you know, the unexpected. Like they hate each other, but they're also okay with each other. And so I'm so happy you had that reaction, because that was my reaction. I thought it was hilarious. Like to have like the balls to just go there and do that and actually do it well. I mean, of course she would do that.
She knocks it out of the park. Amy, I want to tell you that when I talked to Jon and Greg, and I asked Jon about kind of like working opposite all the different other characters in the film, and which one kind of maybe threw him off, or maybe the hardest to keep his composure. And he said that working opposite you in the scene in Eve's apartment with the fire and all that, that was easily like the most challenging. Like, oh wow, she really brought it.
Yeah, you know what? From the beginning I was like, you only do this if you're really gonna do this.
Right?
There's only one way to go with Eve, and that's to dive in head first.
Let me ask you this: who was a better scene partner, Jon or Mignon?
That can't make me choose that.
Oh, okay, all right.
Mignon is a. It's just too hard of a decision.
Very cute.
We were all harmonious together. We were all harmonious.
All harmonious together.
Yes.
I'll make sure I note that. So she wanted to say Mignon, but she didn't want to hurt Jon's feelings.
You know what? You could work. I mean, I'm sure Lorenzo would feel the same. I could do scenes with Jon Hamm all day long. Jon is, no matter what genre you're in, no matter what you're doing, he's just an incredible scene partner. And I think it's because I don't know, he's just so good.
He's very natural. There's
very natural and
dry.
And he's natural in every sort of direction. He just twists and turns, and everything's genuine, and it's there's a lot of surprises.
He also has a good hold on the tempo of everything. Like you feel like his brain is actually on top of everything, of the whole movement of the scene. He's not an actor that is just worried about when his turn is. He's an actor that is following the flow and the energy of the entire scene and the entire world. So he has the capacity to kind of mold there. So it's really great to work with him.
The rare skill.
There's a generosity there. It's generosity that comes. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I appreciate you saying that. I was just gonna say the rare skill of like being able to read the room. Like,
yes,
you know, like not everybody can do that.
No, and also not trying to again, not to say the word, but it has to be a generosity to someone playing the lead like that, sure. And a confidence that, you know, and trust, I suppose, but like everybody trusts him, but he has a generosity where he's letting others sort of do what they do, and there's the give and take that puts trust in the other actor, the people working with you, and in you, and puts faith in you, and it becomes a really fun, like sort of electric experience. It's very fun.
Well, it comes across awesome on screen. You're all great. It's all fantastic. I really appreciate you guys taking time to chat today. Thank you so much. Listen, I'm super excited to be able to chat with you guys about Confess, Fletch, because first of all, the movie's hilarious. Second of all, you're both amazing in it. And I'm curious, Roy, is there more or less pressure playing a character who is so sort of dry and serious? Because my impression of you is that you're very different than that. So I'm curious if, like, where, like, for you, you're like, yeah, what was that like for you?
You know what film I watched, and I'm not going to say to prepare.
Okay.
But to figure out tone. And this is not going to make sense, but I hope that it does.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
My character is very much Lethal Weapon 1, Danny Glover, Sergeant Murtaugh. I'm too old. I'm too tired. What do you want? What is it now? I just want to sleep.
Yeah.
And I think from that is where the comedy comes from. And so, you know, when you look at comedy to some degree, like comedy can be, the crazy joke or the crazy gag and you fall, but it also could be knowing that this character just wants a thing. And every time he tries to get it, here comes Fletch or his annoying ass rookie partner and throwing a wrench in his day. And so that becomes the joke. And so that's a nod to the writing. And so now you get into Zev Boro, who co-wrote with our director, Greg Mottola. So now you just, as an actor, I can just trust the words, man. We did source material off a book. I'm not cooking something up from scratch. Why am I working so hard? So, it just became something where I was a little bit more, chill.
Smarter, not harder. Aiden, so I guess maybe piggybacking on that a little bit. Did you have anything in particular that you watched, or any character that you maybe looked at as kind of like inspiration or influence for Grizz?
I tried to stay away from watching any cop stuff just because I felt like I hadn't seen my character represented really in cop media. And I really wanted to tap into that kind of nervous energy of just like trying to prove yourself, trying to get validation, wanting to do something that's good for the world, and maybe having a little naivete about how things really work. Yeah. And that's also not hard for me to tap into because it is ever present.
Did you guys have a lot of I know that the humor, like we're talking about the humor being kind of a little more subdued, but did you still have those kind of breaks where you're just like, you got to take a second and like laugh it out because whatever happened is just too funny?
I think that there were definitely times where we had to. The first time I saw Jon Hamm's feet, I was like, all right, how long his feet got to be out? And normally on a set when like the people got to like, I'm like, is this covered under like the intimacy coordinator nudity thing? Like, do I feel comfortable? These feet, he's just got his feet out and he's putting them on the desk and he's doing it. Oh, let me tell you this. Aiden, tell him about how when we were doing, when I had the baby, the scene where I have the baby, and he puts his feet up on the desk, right? And so you read the script and it's just feet on desk. Okay, cool. Do my line, feet on the desk. He's twiddling his toes. Wow.
The toe twinkling.
You're trying to do your line, and it's just big toe, just one toe. He would just do one toe.
Wiggling.
But also watching Roy be mad at John and his feet while a baby is sleeping on Roy is impossible to keep a straight face.
But that's the little quirk and nuance that's comedic improv that's not in the script that Jon Hamm brilliantly finds, and that Aiden and I have to challenge ourselves to not laugh at and ruin the shot. So it really is just the it's the subtlety of that. You don't need a big gag in that moment. You just need, we're trying to have a serious conversation about a murder. Why is your big toe twitching?
I get it. That would absolutely throw me off. Too. I won't stick my toes up while we chat. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to talk about the movie. It was awesome. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for keeping your shoes on.